हे चालू आहे शायद नाही. Okay. Namaste all. We, the team of Bharat Italy Association of Social Promotion, Torino, welcomes you all for this event. I am Praveen Jagdale, founder, member, and president of this association. I take a few minutes to introduce the association and its activity in Torino. The formation of this association was initiated in February 2019 with 8 founder members from Torino with different professions, right from teacher, housemaker, engineers, businessman, and health worker. With regional diversity in India. That was our main motto, to keep the regional diversity in our association. Our association is officially established in May 2021, which is officially registered in the Comunale. The concept of this association, the idea of this association is help new arriving Indians to establish in Torino and integrate with local cultures, provide social platform to deal with the local bureaucracy, strengthen the community to feel like home away from home, establish a suitable platform to explore personal qualities, create nuclear leadership through social, cultural, and sports events or clubs, celebrate Bharatiya festivals to keep liveliness in the life, stabilize the young Indian talent in Italy, help to make the small businesses or startup, promote appropriate narrative about Bharat and its cultural heritage. We are still in infant stage, but already started working in social and bureaucracy fronts. Soon we are launching our website after official registration. Once again, I and my team take this opportunity to welcome you all for this social event of gathering. As you all know, 5th August 2019 is the day when revocation of 370 article from Jammu and Kashmir took place, and new era has begun in Jammu and Kashmir. On August 5th, the government of India issued a presidential order overruling the 1954 order and making all the provisions of Indian Constitution applicable to Jammu and Kashmir. The order was based on the resolution passed in both houses of Indian Parliament with 2/3 majority. Now, Jammu and Kashmir marching towards the prosperity and progress with peace. The government of India has started a development spirit to facilitate the change in Jammu and Kashmir. While much has been done, much remains to be done. I give this floor to my colleague, Mr. Shriram, to introduce our speaker and today's topic.
Namaste, ciao tutti. I'm Shriram. I'm currently based in Milan. I'll be the moderator for today's event. Before we begin, I would like to mention a couple of housekeeping rules. Please keep your microphone muted throughout the session. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat or send them to me personally. Depending on the time we have, we will shortlist a few of those and try to address them live. We are hoping to have a pleasant and eventful interaction with all of you. So welcome to Mrinal, who will be the speaker for today's event. Mrinal Mishra is a PhD candidate in finance at the Department of Banking and Finance at the University of Zurich and Swiss Finance Institute. His primary research interests are at the intersection of financial intermediation, financial technologies, and household finance. He also works on the application of unstructured data in banking using machine learning. He has a bachelor's in engineering from IIT Kharagpur and a master's of management from IIM. He has also been a keen observer of economic and public policy over the past few years. Over to you, Mrinal.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Good evening, and thank you to Praveen ji and the Bharat Italy Association for giving me this opportunity to talk about the situation, especially the economic and the developmental situation in Jammu and Kashmir. And first of all, namaste to all the attendees before I begin. I do not want to make it, a kind of a soliloquy where I talk for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and everyone else gets bored. So I've had the opportunity to read some of the developmental works and the economic progress that has been made in the new state of Union Territory, not the new state, I'm sorry, the new Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. And excuse me, thereafter, maybe we can make it more interactive, where people who have certain questions put it forward and then we take it from there on. So I'll just list out some few milestones or achievements that have taken place in the last couple of years or have been expedited as a result of the political changes that have taken place in J&K. So 5th of August 2019 was when this Article 370 and 35A were repealed. And by the end of October, it was notified and came into practice. So it's been less than 2 years, if you think of it, when the state was reconstituted and the new administration came into place. But in spite of that, I believe that the state has, or the Union Territory actually, I'm sorry, I keep saying state, because still used to, it was a state at one point of time. The Union Territory has made considerable progress because 890 central laws were applied and 205 state laws were repealed, and about 130 state laws were modified and adjusted. And many of these central laws gave rights to children, to certain weaker sections of society, to women, to senior citizens. The benefits of reservation were not extended completely in Jammu and Kashmir, which was made possible by the repealing of Article 370. Moreover, a very important part is that a lot of West Pakistan refugees who were in the state since 1947, about 56,000 of them, they were given domicile certificates finally, and now they have the right to vote and participate in the day-to-day affairs of the state, because they have been there for almost 3 generations. Apart from that, for the residents, about 4 million or 41 lakh domicile certificates have been issued. The good thing is that these new changes have brought about an era of stability and peace in the state. And if most of you remember, at least I remember from the past decades or the 2000s or even the 90s, the voter turnout in Jammu and Kashmir would, especially in the valley, would hardly touch double digits. And even in the Jammu region, the voter turnout was restricted more to the Jammu, Kathua, Samba, Udhampur kind of belt, and other parts were not. It was not as democracy, especially grassroots democracy, was not allowed to take hold. But in the recently concluded district development council elections, there was more than 50% voter turnout, which is a great sign, because we know that for municipal corporation, for panchayats, for local bodies, if the turnout is more than 50%, that is a sign of healthy democracy. We would expect that the turnout is much more higher when it comes to Lok Sabha or electing the state assembly, probably north of 60%. As far as the economic aspect is concerned, many projects have been sanctioned, and not just sanctioned, have been completed as well. So about 54 projects were sanctioned to the tune of 56,000 crores. And while the progress was pretty slow before August 2019, only about 7 projects were completed. But by June 2021, 21 have been completed, and the target is by the end of the fiscal year 2022. Priority. So we only had NIT Srinagar that was there in the previous state of Jammu and Kashmir, but now we have not just NIT, there is a new IIT Jammu campus that is functioning out the outskirts of Jammu, and AIIMS Jammu is also in progress. In terms of infrastructure development, I don't know if you guys have, or any of you have gone through the Chenab Bridge, which is the highest railway bridge in the world. It will be completed sometime this year or next year, and this is a very big engineering achievement for a country where connectivity, especially railway connectivity to Kashmir Valley, has not been there since the railways were established by the British, which is close to about 150 to 200 years, and Kashmir Valley will get connected by railways, which is very important for. It will allow people to visit more easily, bring the valley closer to the culture of the rest of India, and also allow the rest of India to understand how the people in the valley are, what their culture is, and try to absorb those aspects as well. Because there's a lot of misinformation sometimes, I believe, between not just in Kashmir, but also among the people of the rest of India and other states. some people are even scared to go to Jammu, forget about going to the valley. So railway connectivity is a very important part. And historically, it has been seen that when railway and road connectivity has improved, it has resulted in better economic output, better exchange of ideas, and a more and a composite culture. So there are many more infrastructure projects that have been taking place, that are taking place actually. One of the most seminal ones is that both Jammu and Srinagar are now getting light metro rails. And I have been to Jammu quite often. It is a city which is growing at a pretty rapid pace. There is scope for more growth, and a light metro rail system would actually facilitate easy movement within the city, because the public infrastructure, the public transport system is almost non-existent. So this is a welcome step by the government to have a light metro rail system both in Jammu and Srinagar. In a gist, I don't want to, there are many such projects. I do not want to like give a laundry list of the projects. The point here being that since the Union Territory was reconstituted, the central government is paying very much attention to infrastructure building, human capital investment in the form of educational institutions, especially the premier ones. And all this will ensure that in a period of about a decade, we will see a very different Jammu and Kashmir compared to what we had seen a decade back. And while for this to take place, it was very important that the security situation improved. And that was not possible with Article 370 and 35A in place, because the central government's writ did not run large in the state. And now that the security situation is pretty much under control, except for the odd infiltration that you hear across the border in the Kashmir Valley, we believe that there will be an era of peace and progress for Jammu and Kashmir. And both the regions, whether it be the Jammu region or the Kashmir Valley will be enabled by this entire infrastructure development and investment in different projects to make it a more peaceful and attractive tourist destination. Whereas Jammu probably will also get space for industry, especially manufacturing, in the future. So I do not want to, continue with these bullet point kind of things where I start describing more of the projects. So it is better that we do it in a more interactive fashion, where people have questions and I can try to answer and try to link it with what are the possible economic and developmental aspects of certain things that you people have in mind. Especially, it could be political things, or maybe other things related to more nuanced forms of what is exactly happening in the state. And then maybe whilst talking about that, I slip in some of the other development projects or some of the other aspects which I know about the state or which I have an understanding of. So I'll give it back to Pravinji, and maybe he can take some of the questions or start from his end.
Okay. धन्यवाद. बट ये बहुत अच्छा सेशन होगा, क्वेश्चन आंसर्स. तो मैं आप सभी को, पार्टिसिपेंट्स को मैं इनवाइट करता हूँ अपने क्वेश्चंस पूछने के लिए. बट जब तक क्वेश्चंस वगैरह बने, तब तक मैं एक छोटा सा मेरा क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ स्टार्टिंग टू दिस डिस्कशन. ये जो फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट वहां पे आएगा, जैसे कि अभी जम्मू कश्मीर में इन्वेस्टमेंट इंडियन गवर्नमेंट कर रही है, yes. ये फॉरेन इन्वेस्टमेंट आएगा, उसको टेररिज्म का या तो उधर का लोकलाइट्स लोगों का कितना इम्पैक्ट हो सकता है?
सो प्रवीण जी, मैं हिंदी में जवाब दूं या फिर
नहीं, आप, मुझे लगता है कि जैसे हिंदी सबको सूटेबल है तो हिंदी में बात करें, इंग्लिश में तो
I think let me stick to English, because there might be some people who might not be comfortable. So I think before even we go for foreign investment, we have to ensure that there is Indian investment in Jammu and Kashmir, which is next to negligible. So there is a tendency, I'm not saying that foreign investment is not important, but there are a lot of people within India who should be willing to take the risk and invest in Jammu and Kashmir. And they should not feel that there is a risk. Actually, I should not even use the word risk. Investing in Jammu and Kashmir should be like investing in Maharashtra or in Gujarat or in Haryana or in Himachal Pradesh. And the very first and foremost thing for that to happen is the security situation has to be like the rest of the country. Okay, you can have the odd kind of flare up here and there, but it cannot be on the boil 365 days a year.
Mm.
And that, I believe, is the first and foremost thing that any administration has to take care of. And it is not easy because it is a border state. It is bordered by a very large neighbor to the north and one of our western neighbors, and both of them do not have the best kind of interests in their mind for this region. So I think that is the first and foremost thing. And if you think of it, mostly security situation and economic progress, it is a kind of a vicious cycle, or even a virtuous cycle. Because if there is conflict, then it results in lower economic output, or people are scared to invest, or they get no jobs, which results in more conflict, and this keeps on repeating. Whereas if you are able to stem this flow, which is what the government has tried to do with Article 370, and reverse it. So if the security situation is good, people are not interested in instability, conflict, and things of that sort, investment will come, people will get jobs, they will get the benefits of they will get richer, you will have more industry, you will have more the incomes will increase. And once that happens, then in 15-20 years they will lose interest in trying to push for conflict. Any conflict cannot happen by external agents alone. There has to be support on the ground. And if the people on the ground see there is not much incentive for them to do this because they have comfortable lives, a well-functioning economy, then this will stop on its own. But the push has to be given by the state, because the state is the largest entity over here. And it is the state which has to sort of guarantee the private sector that they can go about their investment. And we will protect, at least the security wise, we will protect your investment from any possible mishaps. So,
Yes.
श्रीराम,
Yeah.
आप कोई उसको ये कीजिए, क्वेश्चन लेना चालू कीजिए. नंद जी, प्लीज आप पूछिए क्वेश्चन.
Okay. Hi, this is Nandkumar here. Thanks for the great introduction and great brief presentation. I have two questions. One is, can we be clear of this? Because sometimes percentage and statistics can be misleading.
Yes.
So when you say that 50% of the voter turnout, how many voters were registered? So that's the thing. So if 10% people register and 50% turnout happens, it's a completely misleading statistic. So I don't know the answer to this question, but is there an 80-90% of the voters of the state registered?
So Nandkumar ji, so you had two questions. This is the first one. You have another one, or
Yeah, the second one is related to again regarding the infrastructure. First of all, it's absolutely amazing what Government of India is doing, and it has to be integrated. And this was the so I totally agree with the approach. But I again want to know, because again it should not fall under the statistics and wrong information. So again I wanted to know which was the major project which was initiated after October 2018. Not because there are so many infrastructure projects which has got a gestation period from 5 years to 15 years. So many of the projects have started in Jammu and Kashmir. A lot of, even the bridge was started 8-10 years ago. But which is the major one which has started after our, where the Government of India as well as Government of Kashmir committed a good financial investment? We started after October 2018 when we actually got the article passed completely. Yeah.
So Government of India and Government of Jammu and Kashmir are basically the same.
Yes, exactly. That means state government, the union territory and the central territory.
Yeah, because it is a union territory at this point without a state legislature. I mean,
yes, exactly.
Come at some point. So the major project which I know which has been initiated and plans of completion are in 2025 is the metro rail system in both Jammu and Srinagar, which was initiated after the revocation of Article 370. I agree that the Chenab Bridge.
Excellent. Yeah, that's very good news. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have visited Jammu multiple times, and it is not as small a city, or neither is Srinagar. I visited Srinagar also. So a metro rail system actually would do a whole lot of good to both the cities, in fact. And coming to your first question about the voter registration, so I have to tell you that in Jammu region, more or less, voter registration is almost 100% in the Jammu areas, the districts of Jammu division. in Kashmir Valley, there has been some, resistance or like apprehension about elections and democracy, but let's hope that also goes away pretty soon, because if the security, as I keep repeating, if the security situation is fine, if people are allowed to come out and vote, then these things will automatically improve over time. And there was a time when there was, in the 90s, even Jammu was not peaceful. There used to be bomb blasts in Jammu city as well. But now Jammu city is almost, there are some misconceptions in the minds of people who don't live there. But if you go, it's like almost any other Indian city. You will not have any problem with security. People are like feel as much Indian as you can think they would be, and they are also more or less participating in democracy of all forms, from municipal to the central. And I hope that this trend will also catch on in the Kashmir Valley, and we will also see higher turnouts over there, 50, 60, 70% in the years to come.
Thank you very much. That definitely answered my questions.
Thank you, sir.
Yogeshwar ji.
हेलो, नमस्ते, मैं योगेश्वर बात कर रहा हूँ. इफ यू आर कंफर्टेबल इन हिंदी और इंग्लिश, आई एम हैप्पी.
I will
stick to English if required. Okay, Mrinal ji, thank you very much for your introduction and nice.
योगेश्वर जी, आपको इंटरप्ट कर रहा हूँ, आप हिंदी में बोल सकते हैं, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
ठीक है,
मैं दोनों में कंफर्टेबल.
हाँ, ठीक है. मृणाल जी नमस्ते, आपका इंट्रोडक्शन बहुत अच्छा हो गया. उस ऑन दैट बेसिस अच्छी तरह से 2 क्वेश्चंस है मेरे. एक तो इंटरनल है, भारत के अंतर्गत परिस्थितियों का प्रश्न है, और एक बाहरी चीजों के प्रश्न. एक तो डेमोग्राफी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर रही है अंतर्गत मामलों में. तो हम लोग जो कश्मीरी हिंदू है, मैं पर्पसफुली कश्मीरी पंडित नहीं कह रहा हूँ, कश्मीरी हिंदुओं को वहां पे फिर से बसाने के लिए हम क्या प्रोएक्टिवली काम कर रहे, गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे भी और एनजीओ लेवल पे भी, और उसका फायदा वहां पे रोजगार मिलने के लिए, मतलब एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए कितना फायदेमंद हो जाएगा, और ओवरऑल कश्मीर भारत का अंग कैसे जुड़ा जाएगा, ये एक मेरा सवाल है. क्योंकि मैं अभी राम माधव जी की मुलाकात साक्षात्कार मैंने सुना परसों, तब वो कह रहे थे कि हम स्पेशल है, ऐसा एक फीलिंग था कश्मीरियों में, वो अब कम हो गया है. तो उसके फायदे भारत से कश्मीर पूरी तरह से जुड़े, इसके लिए हो सकते हैं कि ये इंटरनल है. दूसरा है गिलगिट बाल्टिस्तान को हम कैसे देख रहे हैं अभी, क्योंकि अभी कल का या परसों का न्यूज़ है कि पाकिस्तान उसको सेपरेट 5th प्रोविंस करके डिक्लेयर कर रहा है. तो ये एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स के बारे में प्रश्न है, और एक इंटरनल के लिए था. ओके, इतने ही मेरे प्रश्न थे. धन्यवाद.
देखिए योगेश्वर जी, की मैं तो एक्सपर्ट नहीं हूँ, लेकिन जो मेरी थोड़ी जानकारी है मैं उस हिसाब से आपको उत्तर देने का प्रयत्न करूंगा. तो ये तो आपकी बात सही है जो राम माधव जी ने बोला कि कश्मीर में थोड़ा ये रीजनल आइडेंटिटी काफी ज्यादा स्ट्रांग थी, एंड थोड़ा ये कम हुआ है. जहां तक रीसेटलमेंट एंड रिहैबिलिटेशन की बात है, देखिए मैं इस बात को रिपीट करता रहूंगा कि जब तक के लिए जो सिचुएशन है वहां पर नॉर्मलाइज अभी पेपर पे हुआ है, लेकिन ग्राउंड पे नॉर्मलाइज होने का मतलब कि वहां पर आज के दिन कोई भी जाके इन्वेस्ट कर सके. कोई अगर आपको छोटा बिजनेस खोलना है, जाके वहाँ खोल सकते हैं. वहां पर जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप है, दिस टर्म कॉन्फ्लिक्ट एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, मतलब सम पीपल आर देयर जो ये कॉन्फ्लिक्ट या टेररिज्म के बेसिस पे ही उनकी दुकान चल रही है, उनका घर चल रहा है, बिकॉज दे आर एबल टू they have created a ecosystem for themselves where more the unrest, the more they benefit. And benefit का मतलब यहाँ पर ultimately monetary benefit ही होता है, because ultimately everyone is interested in whatever you say in the world that we have created. Ultimately all benefit is monetary benefit. So they have created that situation, so that has to be disincentivized, and इसमें समय लगेगा. ये मुझे, मेरी जहाँ तक जानकारी है, ये आप 2 साल में आप नहीं कर सकते. You have to see the effects in like 5 years. People have to start visiting the place more often. I don't know, अगर आप इंडिया में है तो you have to think कि जितने आसानी से आप हिमाचल या मसूरी या नैनीताल को सोच लेते हैं अपना डेस्टिनेशन, उतनी आसानी से आप कश्मीर में भी सोच लें कि चलिए आज इधर चलते हैं. तो once those things change, then even the mentality of people will also change. And then slowly, then at some point, there can be rehabilitation also. Although, see, I am not at all an expert on the situation of Kashmiri Hindus and what happened to them, but let's see whether at some point that can be done and whether they are willing to go back also. Because the problem is that all of them also have created their own lives in different parts of the world and also different parts of the country. So, agar ऐसा situation create हो, which is जो encourage कर सके उनका rehabilitation, so at least the government should do that. अब वो जाए नहीं जाए वो उनका matter है. But that
Exactly.
option should be given to them, and that will
Yes.
not happen overnight. Because अगर आप अभी कर देंगे तो you have to create a kind of buffer zone. मतलब आप वहाँ पर security लगा के रखें तो ऐसा क्या फायदा? ऐसा कोई फायदा नहीं.
सही.
This is useless.
सही.
So the second thing is Gilgit-Baltistan. So here I think this is more about protecting the interests of our neighbor to the north than about Pakistan themselves. So they have some investments which and this Gilgit-Baltistan region is critical because it passes through that.
Yes.
I think it is more about that, and this investment is primarily a defense investment. I mean, whatever people say it is economic, this, that, it is not economic. It is just a way to gain access to the Arabian Sea and to the Middle East. So what the government can do, apart from overtly only diplomatic, covertly you and I don't know. I hope they're doing something, and I hope they do something fast.
Yes.
We will not get to know that to what the overt action is. Overtly they can do the diplomatic kind of things, but you have to understand that today our larger neighbor to the north is pretty much a powerful country. I mean, we live in Europe and we know that at least US and they are like on the equal footing, and they have been very strategic with the way they have gone about their business. The best part is, see, they don't have to worry about internal affairs. They only can worry about external affairs. So they have put all the energy in external affairs, and they have done, whether you like it or not, they have done a very good job in ensuring that their interests are protected. So it is not going to be easy. Let's just put it that way. And again, I come back to the economic point that India has to grow economically. With a 3 trillion economy, we cannot expect to counter, large countries such as them. We have to be at least not even 5. I say like 7, 8, 9 by the end of 2030 to give some kind of resistance and put our viewpoint in the world forum. Otherwise, nobody is bothered. This is the reality.
Yes. सही. Okay. धन्यवाद.
धन्यवाद.
Vaibhav, do you want to ask a questions or we will read the question?
Yeah, I can ask the question.
Yes, please.
So my question is regarding are we facing any resistance from local administration or bureaucracy, which is currently established in Jammu and Kashmir? I mean, Union Territory. I'll again correct myself.
Yeah. So bureaucracy, I do not believe there should be any resistance, because bureaucracy is now pretty much, in a way, it is being run via the Home Ministry. If you think you have the governor, and the governor is probably directly reporting to the PMO or to the Home Ministry. So I hope there is no resistance in the bureaucracy, because anything that is centrally administered, usually the bureaucracy functions pretty smoothly. This is the kind of general thing that we have seen in India. Whatever is centrally administered is administered fairly well, whether you with no issues about state center का जो अपना चलता रहता है तू मैं and all those things. So local administration could be an issue. I can tell you that in Jammu there is definitely not a problem. The local administration is very much keen in implementing, and if you think even in Kashmir, otherwise these kind of numbers cannot be there. This Chenab bridge was supposed to be completed years ago, and as someone mentioned, that it probably was envisioned probably a decade back, but it was still not completed. And if these projects are being completed, or the things like Jal Jeevan Mission or domicile has been issued, elections are taking place, that means the local administration is on board. Otherwise, these kind of things cannot happen if the local administration is resisting the entire process. So, in my opinion, not so far, at least what I see, based on the numbers or the kind of data that the government has put out, there does not seem to be a resistance of any sort.
Okay, I mean, again, I have another question. Like,
Yeah.
other day I was listening someone, and I heard like when Jammu Kashmir was a state, that time there were some acts like Roshni Act or something like that.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that time, like, if anyone has any encouragement on land, they can apply for the ownership of that land, and it was found in reports, and that like if I mean, one only particular community is getting more benefited, and special, yeah, I mean, minority community was always specifically rejected their application. So is there anything our government is thinking like to have some I mean,
So,
justice sort of thing?
yeah, yeah. So see, the Roshni Act, from my understanding, was more like, so you have these Gujjars and Bakkarwals who are actually SCs and STs. They are Muslim, but they are SCs, STs
Yeah.
in Jammu Kashmir, and they are basically, they have this cattle or sheep, and they are nomads. In the summer, they go up the mountains, and in the winter, they come down. And what exactly the government told was that if you come down and you say you start living in one place, now that is your piece of land, whether it is yours or not. And a lot of it was actually forest land or government land. And they said that we will transfer the title to you. Now, this act was actually challenged by Ankur Sharma. I think he's a lawyer. And I think it has been repealed, and a lot of the land is being taken back now. I don't know how the government will ensure these people, they have their homes, probably they will keep their homes, but it will not, the title will not be transferred to them. That it is not, does not become your own land. If it is forest land, it's forest land. You have a way of life, then you can come and live here for 6 months and then go back up again the rest of the 6 months. If you want to buy land, then you can buy and live off as well and not be nomadic anymore. So I think the Roshni Act was repealed, to my understanding. A lot of the land has been reacquired.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
There are many questions coming up in the chat. So I will ask to the people who are writing in the chat, can directly also ask the questions. Amit Ranaji, would like to ask a question directly, or may I read it for you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, why in media we don't see news about, because initially when the article was removed, there were news that people were returning back, opening shops, companies were planning to buy land to open some their companies there. But then there are no such positive news coming in media, or if government has to provide any security so that people are feeling safe for investing. So can you provide some details on that?
So, see, first of all, if most people, even if someone is buying land from outside the state, if it is a small portion of parcel of land, there will not be any news. News only comes when there is like some big marquee investment, a big industrial house, or maybe suddenly, maybe if a very big hotel like say Taj Group decides that we are going to construct a 500-room hotel in certain part. So those kind of things you might hear the news. But if someone is buying some, 100 square meters or 200 square meters of land, that is not going to be in the news. Now, so I will try to, I think your question is more about why are we not seeing big ticket investments or news of big ticket investments. So I again circle back to the same point, it's not even been 2 years. And if you think of it, the only place where this kind of big ticket investment can happen for tourism purposes is Kashmir Valley to some extent. In Jammu region, there is manufacturing, but there is also a problem of human capital. So there are not, as many top universities as the rest of the country from where they can hire. So for manufacturing kind of thing, you can have a little bit, semi-skilled labor as well. But if you want high-skilled labor, then you also want better quality institutions or more institutions. And we just have NIT Srinagar. There is nothing else. So hopefully once IIT Jammu or something is set up, we hope to see that some service sector also might come up. But in my understanding, Jammu and Kashmir is not the place for service sector, because there are already many cities in India which are catering to this kind of market. In the north, there is Gurgaon, Noida. And then we know that in the south and the west, there are many large cities. So in my opinion, the focus should be Kashmir Valley should be more on tourism related. and Jammu region should be more manufacturing. That should be the focus, because there is a industrial cluster in Badi Brahman, which is in Samba district. So that can be expanded, or other kind of manufacturing can be expanded in other districts like Kathua or Jammu as well, or maybe even in Udhampur. So the problem is that manufacturing is not a big thing in India in general, if you think of it. So if someone has to open manufacturing setup, he will not go to Jammu Kashmir today. He will probably want to go to Maharashtra, Karnataka, maybe Gujarat. If nowadays we are hearing that Uttar Pradesh is giving a lot of incentives, they might go there. And if those opportunities are exhausted, then they will think of Jammu region. So let's not see it in that way. There might be some smaller investments, maybe some ancillary industries in Jammu region, and hopefully more tourism-related investment in Kashmir Valley. But as I say, let things settle down a bit, give it some time. 2 years is too short a time. And hopefully we'll see more activity in the coming 2-3 years. Also, people might be apprehensive that there'll be some state elections again and all. They probably might be watching what the outcome of these state elections would be, what are the powers that are given to the state legislature. So let's wait and watch on that. I think primarily it should be a tourist destination, which should be developed, and little bit of manufacturing in the districts close to Punjab. Otherwise, service sector, there are other places in India where if I had a company, I would go to.
Rajat, please ask your question. माइक म्यूट है शायद रजत. ओके, रजत जी का ये क्वेश्चन है कि यू टॉक अबाउट चिनाब रेलवे ब्रिज which is recently completed. I think it is a planned way back. I don't know, just asking. Is revocation of Article 370 affects its progress, or Article 370 is making any hindrance in progress of this kind of projects?
So Rajat ji, thank you for your question. I think definitely removal of Article 370 helps in facilitating or expediting these projects, because there is absolutely 100% synchronization among center, state and local administration, now that it is a union territory. Whereas forget about Article 370, even if you try to do something, some large ticket projects in other states of India, there are 100 issues. Like I'll give the example of Maharashtra, where the Ahmedabad-Mumbai bullet train corridor, still the land has not been acquired. So I mean, this is the way the Indian administrative system, that if the government, it is a union territory, the project would have been completed much faster. The expediting would have taken place as compared to when it was just the state government, where you had the issues of normal state governments of India, plus these special privileges and things of that sort, plus a conflict kind of situation. So definitely there is no doubt that this has helped in the faster implementation of developmental and infrastructure related projects. Absolutely no doubts about that.
Nandakumar ji, आपका question लीजिए.
Yeah, my question is related to tourism. It's obviously very evident that the main thing is the economic development, and Jammu will happen much faster than the valley, Kashmir Valley. So because of obviously the reasons of tensions. But is there a transparency where we can actually see, anyone in the world can see, any citizen can see how the tourism is increasing in Kashmir Valley? So how many tourists are coming? Because it's basically, as the economy grows, people will be happier, as you have mentioned it. And you have mentioned that tourism is a very key factor, and Kashmir Valley is absolutely amazing for tourism. So is there,
So there is
the statistics
so
of tourism?
I do not have the direct statistics like that, but I have anecdotal evidence, because I remember seeing a video 3-4 months back that Gulmarg was basically packed this year in the winter. Like literally there was no space, or it was not even possible to find a hotel 14 days in advance. So you can say there are two things, two factors which worked. One, obviously there was coronavirus, so people could not travel outside and all those things. But over and above that, even if there is coronavirus issue, just like I'm giving you a thought experiment, counterfactual, but the situation in JNK would have been the same as 5, 6, 7 years back. Nobody would go to Gulmarg. But this time it was absolutely, it was not possible to even find a room in any of the hotels 2 weeks in advance for the entire season. And the person whose videos I saw, he's actually a vlogger from IIT Kharagpur, a senior of mine. He said he was able to get the rooms only because he used to work in the aviation sector and has connections in the hospitality sector. So definitely there has been a positive impact. There is absolutely no doubts about that. And I don't
this will also encourage investment. In fact, if there is a shortage.
Yes, of course. And I don't know if you read, not just in Jammu Kashmir, in Ladakh, government is setting up a skiing and mountaineering training institute in Kargil, I believe, near Kargil. So where they will train ski and snowboard instructors and mountaineering instructors, basically for adventure sports. And I live in Switzerland. I know what the potential of adventure sports is, because Switzerland, the way it markets itself. So there is no reason why that cannot be done if we have the right kind of infrastructure, trainers. If, as I say, like the first and foremost thing is that it has to be peaceful. So I see that there are steps being taken, and hopefully we will see a very different valley. It will not be very unsurprising if 10 years later Pravinji decides to take a vacation to Kashmir Valley to maybe teach kids skiing or something. So that is the kind of thing which we want, and I think the government understands that there is huge potential. Forget about foreign tourists coming. Even if Indian tourists go, that itself is enough, because foreign tourists will not come in isolation. They will come only when they know that Indian tourists visit a certain place. So we have this kind of I'm not telling specifically you, Nandakumarji, but we sometimes think that foreign tourists are not coming from country ABC. I mean, first let the Indian tourists go there and establish itself as a tourist destination. And then whatever foreign, non-foreign, from Mars, wherever they want to come, they can come after that.
Absolutely.
In fact, I visited 4 to 5 times to Jammu and Kashmir, and it's वो जो जब without development जो मैंने देखा है land, वो बहुत सुंदर है. मुझे वो डेवलपमेंट होने के बाद डोलोमाइट जैसा रहेगा या तो स्विट्जरलैंड जैसा रहेगा या पूरा चेंज होके another issues will pop up. ये थोड़ा सा डर लग रहा है मुझे.
बिल्कुल सही कहा. अब मैं मुझे development is always a misnomer, but security is the only thing which I believe is the reason, nothing else. बाकी जैसे नॉर्थ ईस्ट में मैं गया हूँ, मेघालय वगैरह में वेरी कंफर्टेबली, बहुत ही सुंदर है, स्विट्जरलैंड जैसे ही सुंदर है विदाउट डेवलपमेंट, और ज्यादा अच्छा दिखता है. बिल्कुल मैं सही बोल रहा हूँ. Security is the only reason people have not gone from India also into Kashmir.
So I have a different view on this. I think
जम्मू नहीं, मैं जम्मू की नहीं बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं कश्मीर की बात कर रहा हूँ. लद्दाख में तो बहुत होता है टूरिज्म. लद्दाख इज वेरी बिग इन टूरिज्म बिकॉज़ लद्दाख में सिक्योरिटी कम है, इशू कम है.
Yes. So I think some of the apprehensions people in India have about quote unquote development is that they think that there will be over tourism, because see, the problem is that our bureaucrats and local politicians, there is no trust in them. We think that if once things start, and we know many of them the way they are, they just want to capitalize on the situation and fill their pockets. So they give, like, distribute land titles or give permissions without thinking how it will impact ecologically. So that is more a question of state capacity there. And this is not limited just to Jammu Kashmir. This is the problem, all throughout India. That when we see what happens in like certain parts of like Bangalore or Western Ghats, I mean, when it starts, there is no one stopping it. Let's just put it that way. So there has to be some kind of a check and balance, and the checks and balances have to be at the government level only, because nobody, God himself will not come down. Or Sri Ram will not come down to, see what is happening in all these cases. So the point being that this is a question of state capacity, that we have to ensure that there is no overdevelopment, that the natural beauty gets spoiled. And here a bit of ethics and a lot of other things come in, the way the governance systems are structured. People themselves have to be a little less greedy in the short run, because if they're less greedy in the short run, they know that they can benefit from this entire thing in the long run. Because if you just extract, it's like the story of the goose that lays the golden eggs. You cannot like kill the goose itself. So we have to be careful of that, and this has to be done at the government level. Nobody else can do it. The government people have to be ethical and ensure that there is no pillaging of natural resources.
Okay, Mrinalji. If you allow me, can we take last question
Yes.
from Rudrarth? Mr. Rudrarth, क्या आप question पूछेंगे?
Hi. No, I was just pondering because we cannot change our neighbors for sure. So is it a better idea to so is it a better idea for the state of Jammu and Kashmir or the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir to open its borders to our neighbors for the trade to grow, so that it grows at a faster pace, because we will have a market for sure for our neighbors? Or is it a better idea to grow internally first and then open our borders, as we see in Europe, because opening up borders for trade has done wonders for Europe? That's all that I wanted to know, for the potential that it has.
Yeah. See, I think open borders is a very loaded question. I mean, it looks very nice on paper.
I know.
So before I answer that, I will just place a couple of caveats, and then so open borders only works. I mean, all of you probably have some part have studied science, and the concept of equilibrium, that things flow from higher potential to lower potential and things like that.
Correct.
And if you have to have equilibrium, then both the bodies should be in steady state.
Mm-hmm.
And in Europe it works because most of the countries are in kind of steady state. They have like similar, apart from a few differences, they are more or less similar in terms of how rich they are. Culturally, they are almost 80% say similar. Their values are similar. Whether you go to Italy, you go to Germany, all the school kids are learning Greek and Latin.
Mm-hmm.
So you get my point, some culture. So open borders is a very nice idea, but there has to be a lot of, not just at the government level, at a societal level, at a cultural level, at a political level, there has to be similarity between two entities. So US and Canada can open borders because there is absolutely no difference between US and Canada as in terms of the values they believe in or what the governments want to do or what they stand for. But here, I mean, it would not require an expert to say that that is not the case with India and its Western neighbor. Like there is absolutely nothing on which we agree. Geographically, your point makes sense because Kashmir Valley, even Jammu region, is better connected to the Indus Basin than to northern part of India, that is the Indo-Gangetic Basin. So that way it makes sense, and that is why if you go back in history, most of their exchange was via that direction. So Jammu Kashmir, even the princely state, and even before that, they were closer to like say Central Asia or like even the culture of what is now Pakistan, Punjab, or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Northwest Frontier province. It was easier to just move geographically. That is just the reason. But now, for whatever reasons, that is not the case. There is a hard border in place. So in my opinion, it makes sense to first integrate with the rest of the country. That is why we have this railway link, which is very important, and then you have the tunnels which are being built so that you can reach Kashmir Valley or even Ladakh without any issues whatsoever. Another point which you made, which I also want to talk about, is trade, and it is beneficial, and the economy will do better and stuff. Yes, to a certain extent, but assume that there is a hard border in place, and the other entity with whom you want to trade, or you have all these issues with, you have 101 issues with them, but they are a rich country, and you want to trade with them. But that is also not the case here. So, I mean, I don't really see any, if I have a SWOT and you list out 5 points, I don't see any point on which this open border argument makes sense, according to me. So this is my viewpoint on it. And just economically, just for trade purposes also, it would have made sense, but that is not the case. I mean, our Western neighbor itself is in an economic crisis of its own. So I really don't know what or how much the state can gain from trade as such. In fact, they would gain more if they have connections to or faster, movement of goods to other parts of India. There is a lot of people who are willing to pay premium prices in Bangalore or in Mumbai or in New Delhi or in Hyderabad as compared to Karachi or Lahore.
विश्वजीत जी, आप पूछिए. विश्वजीत जी, do you have any questions? Okay, anyways, उन्होंने लिखा था कि second one is better idea and the government is also working on this
But
concept.
which is the second one? What does he mean by second one?
This is regarding the Rudra's question
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
to promote Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah. If you think of it, see, many people, when you live in Europe, you're able to appreciate India is basically a better integrated Europe.
Yeah.
In many ways, where we share. I mean, Europe. So India is, somewhere like in between US and Europe, not as homogeneous as US and not as heterogeneous politically as Europe. They are somewhere in between. So there are ample opportunities for goods and services and trade within Indian borders because there is capacity for people to pay. If we are able to create those linkages first, then we should be able to do fairly well for ourselves. So we do not need to start, we do need to start thinking about exporting and all those things. I'm not saying that we have to become, close our borders and just look inwards, but there is a huge market and there is a huge scope for what people are willing to pay, sometimes even at prices at the level of Europe in certain big countries. So it is better to tap that kind of market first, and then after that, see what you can do with your neighbors in terms of exports or open borders and things like that.
I have last one in my mind about this. Now we talked a lot about Gilbit and Baltistan. How much we have to protest against this kind of matters? How much strongly we have to protest, but how much strongly we have to protest about those matters? Because they protested against in UN, everywhere in the world, they are protesting for the Kashmir. So we have to also take care, consider these things in our mind too. So what is your view?
So I think the protest has to be, okay, Vishwajit ji is saying network. Okay, his network is weak.
Okay.
So protest has to be at two levels. One is at if at all, one is obviously the government will do what it needs to do at international fora, that is the United Nations or other kind of places. And then there is a civil society related protest. So if the civil society thinks that this is going to harm the local cultures of Gilgit-Baltistan, then it has to come from them more than anybody else. And Gilgit-Baltistan is actually a very fabulous region because many people don't know that in that area, whatever small, big you want to call that, is a matter of that is relative. There are 2-3 localized cultures. There is like another culture in Gilgit, another in Skardu. Baltistan is very different. So it would be if it gets homogenized, I hope it does not. If it gets homogenized, that would be a loss because that culture has been around for many years, for millennia actually. So let's see how exactly the government deals with it. And it has to start by the government at international forum, and then maybe it picks up pace and things like that. But as I told in the beginning, this is more to do with the neighbor to the north than with Gilgit-Baltistan province by Pakistan themselves.
Okay. So I'll pass it to the Shriram now.
Right. Thank you, Mrinal. Thank you, Pravinji, and everybody for asking your questions and your wonderful time. It was a wonderful event, very pleasant. Really great listening to different perspectives and about different industries specifically. Hope we can have more events like Nandakumar ji mentioned in the beginning. We might not have had the opportunity to meet several times in the past because of coronavirus and other things. But let's hope we have more events in the future, and we'll be hearing from you soon. You will be hearing from us soon. We'll also be uploading this video on our social media channels in the future. So please do check out our social media. Once again, thanks, Mrinal. Thanks, everybody, for attending the event.
Namaste.
Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks for
Namaste and dhanyawad.
Thanks everyone. Thanks.
Thank you.